In this video, I'm going to be doing a little bit of video analysis and looking at ways that Shari can improve her forehand. She's very kindly sent me in her footage and enabled me to make this video. So hopefully you find it helpful. As a little bit of context, she's been playing for around 15 years, but more seriously for the last 5 years. And in that time, she's taken up playing competitive doubles. And since she's been playing competitive doubles, she's picked up a couple of injuries, firstly to her shoulder and then to her elbow. So she's hoping that she can improve her technique from a performance perspective, but also hopefully by improving her technique, it's going to reduce the chances of injuries as well. So I'm going to slow things down and explain what I see and what I would focus on. And then I'm going to head out on core and kind of show you how I would work on addressing some of the underlying problems. So hopefully you find the video helpful. If you do, it'd be awesome if you give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it always helps me out if you could do that as well. So when we slow things down and take a look, what you'll see is that she has two fundamental problems that are leading to a lot of her performance challenges and increasing the likelihood of injuries. And these are two of the most common problems that I see. Like literally 99% of the players that send me videos for analysis and 99% of the players that I see out playing, doesn't matter what country, what location, these are the underlying problems for most players. She also has a problem on her preparation that's a little bit more specific to her. So we'll be talking about both of them. So in terms of the fundamental problems, the first one is going to be her spacing. She gets much too close to the ball. Now, she was aware of this. She said she's been working on it and she felt like it's better than it used to be. And it absolutely might be. All I can do is kind of go off the footage that I've got in front of me, and every single shot, she is just a little bit too close to the ball. And well, maybe not a little bit. She is much too close to the ball. So what we're seeing here, if we kind of think about that, both from a performance perspective, and this is one of the better shots, she's a little bit further away, but she's actually still a little bit too close. When you set up close to the ball, you're not able to get an inside-out swing path, so it prevents you from using optimal biomechanics, and it also makes the timing really difficult because when you're too close, you can't efficiently use your kinetic chain because your body's in the way. So that's one of the better ones, but still a little bit too close. So from a performance perspective, we're thinking about it like that. But from an injury perspective, we're looking at it and going, right, as she prepares for her shot, and we'll talk about the preparation a little bit later, her arm is relatively straight. And then as soon as she goes towards making contact, her arm starts to bend. And this is because she's too close to the ball and her brain has to solve the problem that she's given it. And then on contact, she's bending her arm a little bit further. So this is going to put a lot of stress and a lot of strain through the shoulder muscles and especially through the muscles in the forearm and the elbow. So this is very likely that this is one of the big underlying contributing factors towards what's going on with her elbow. So yes, we always want to work on our body, and potentially by working on structural balance and improving the strength ratios in a shoulder and strengthening the muscles in a forearm, especially in a lengthened position, that could go a long way towards reducing the pain that she's experiencing. But then we also have to look at the technique and go, this is definitely a contributing factor. But on every single shot, she's getting too close to the ball. Now this one is deep. She's on a clay court, tricky bounces. It's landing right by the baseline. It's bouncing up. And you can see that, again, she is extremely close. As part of the preparation, the arm was at that level of bend. And now, when she makes contact, because she's so close to the ball, her brain is aware of that, so it's had to really bend the elbow to allow her to make contact. So we know continuing to work on the spacing is going to be absolutely crucial to her long-term development, both from a performance perspective and then also from an injury prevention perspective. And now if we take a look at things from the side, we're going to see that the second major underlying problem that the vast majority of players deal with, and that is hitting the ball too late, generally through starting the swing too late. So on every single shot, she is making a late contact. She looks like she's using a semi-western grip, so generally we want to be making contact out in front of the body. And this one is kind of a little bit out in front of the body, but she's really had to arm things and manipulate it to make contact there. So on that higher ball, we potentially want to be even further out. But if we go to the next shot, what we're going to see is, again, she's very close, so she's having to bend the arm and kind of manipulate things in order to make contact with the ball, but she's also not able to use her kinetic chain. So she's got this wide, stable base look. She looks like she's set up in a good position, and she should be able to use her legs, but literally because she started her swing too late, her brain now has a problem to solve. The ball is there, the racket's there. Her brain knows that if she uses her hips more effectively to start the swing, if she then uses her torso, she's not going to make contact with the ball. So instead, what's happening, she isn't able to use her hips and her torso properly, and she just has to do all the work with her arm. So both being close to the ball and hitting the ball late are both contributing to the reductions in performance and the increase in the likelihood of getting injured. So they're the two problems that she needs to solve, the two fundamental problems. But generally you have to start with the spacing side of things first, because that comes first. Now, as a secondary thing, yes, she's going to want to think about using her back hip to initiate the shot. So she's going to be trying to use her kinetic chain more, but it's just really important to understand that we can only focus on so much stuff at any one time, and she really needs to prioritize the spacing, and all her focus needs to be there, especially when we look at this additional problem, which is going to be the way that she actually does her unit turn and the way that she prepares. So she starts off in a reasonable position, in a reasonable ready position. She's got fairly wide stable base. She's got a good leg bend, so there's lots of good stuff going on there. And she starts the unit turn by dropping the racket. So she goes from this position, she lifts the racket up. She starts as if she's going to prepare properly, and then she drops the racket. So it kind of goes up and like this, and then goes back into position. And generally what we're going to want from a more modern unit turn, especially because it looks like she's using a semi-Western grip, is that we're going to be keeping the racket up as we take it round, so then we can drop it down as we start our forward swing. Whereas hers is kind of a two-part preparation. She goes up and then she drops the racket. And this is actually probably increasing her likelihood of making a late contact, because she doesn't quite get that upper body unit turn done early enough. She hasn't fully finished her preparation soon enough, because she's taking the racket back with that kind of secondary motion, and that is going to be contributing to the late contact that she's making every time. So the two fundamental problems are going to be the spacing and then the timing. And really the spacing is the one that I'm going to be looking at focusing on in a moment. And then as we do that spacing, potentially we're also going to be thinking about adjusting the way that we do the preparation. That's a judgment call. She doesn't have to do that. If she fixes the spacing and works on starting her swing sooner, she might be able to hit a really good quality forehand and reduce the injury risk with the way that she's currently doing the backswing. So there's no right or wrong, but generally I would, in this situation, recommend modifying the way that she does the backswing as part of the preparation. So we know the two fundamental problems. We've got the problem with timing, so the ball is too far back relative to her body when she makes contact most of the time, and because of that she's not going to be able to use efficient biomechanics, because there simply isn't enough space or room for her to use a hip, then a torso, and then her arm and racket to come through. So her brain is recognizing that, and she's kind of having to arm it to make the contact work. And then the other problem that we've got is going to be the spacing side of things. She's setting up too close to the ball. And again, if you think, she looks like she's got pretty much a semi-Western grip. And if I set up in roughly the position that she gets into before she starts her forward swing, so we've just looked and said there's this maybe less than optimal backswing going on, but she gets into this position here, and then if I use my hips, my torso and my arm, the contact point needs to be this far away. So she needs to set up this far away in order to do things, efficiently. So that's the thing that she has to prioritize first. You generally have to fix spacing issues before you've even got a chance of fixing timing issues. And in order to fix spacing issues, it is kind of a single-minded focus within your practice. You can use a ball machine, you can rally with a practice partner, you can get a coach feeding you, but you have to be thinking about how far you are away from the ball at all times. And you have to evaluate yourself on that as well. Like, the hard thing is there's so many different things that someone could get distracted by and thinking about, and you know, maybe she's thinking about all these different things, but the spacing issue has to be number one. So as the ball's coming to her, she sets up for a shot, hits it, and then she asks herself afterwards, did I set up the right distance from the ball? And if you've got really good body awareness, then you can do that. But for a lot of people, and one of the things that she said is she thought she was actually doing better in terms of the spacing. So maybe she is, or maybe just the body awareness isn't there and she can't tell how close she is. So in a situation like that, it is really important to record yourself, because then you can hit 5 or 10 shots. You don't want to do 1,000 shots incorrectly, maybe 5 or 10 shots, watch it back, look at the spacing, figure out whether you did it well or whether you need to be further away from it, and then you go out and you hit another 5 to 10 shots, thinking about the spacing, and you try and improve on it. And it's that process done over and over again, thinking about absolutely nothing else except for the spacing until it's working more effectively. Yes, there's going to be, in the back of her mind, she's going to be thinking about timing, because we know we need to start the swing sooner. Maybe she's thinking a little bit about biomechanics, but what you've got to understand is that we can only focus on so much at any one time, and her first mistake is that she sets up too close to the ball, so she has to really prioritize and have the discipline to think about that in the practice and get feedback that enables her to actually do it. So now that you understand what she needs to focus on within her practice, we need to talk about something else that's going to be really important. And that is, in order to actually make improvements in the area that we're talking about, she needs to be really good at reading the flight of the ball and judging distance and depth. And that goes for the timing side of things as well. In order to meet the ball out in front, you have to start your swing at the right time. And in order to start your swing at the right time, you have to be able to read the flight of the ball, judge distance and depth and speed really accurately. And unfortunately, the vast majority of adult tennis players struggle to do this. Unless you grew up playing a ball sport to a really high level, it means that your visual system doesn't necessarily get the amount of work and repetitions that someone who grew up playing tennis would. So in addition to the on-court practice, I find that most adult tennis players, they need to train their visual system to improve how well it functions, to then enable them to read the flight of the ball, so that they can then fix spacing and timing issues. And the same thing really goes for coordination. In order to make the adjustments and in order to use modern techniques, because she's trying to use a semi-Western grip, she's trying to use a modern technique, but potentially the coordination's not there either. And she might need to upgrade that side of things to be able to hit the ball in the way that she wants and to have the coordination so that she's not having to deal with injuries the whole time. The good news is that you can actually improve the visual side and the coordination side using brain-based training. It's one of the main things that I help tennis players with, and if you'd like to learn how to do it, I'm holding a free 5-day Neuro Tennis Challenge pretty soon, where I'm going to teach you how you can use brain-based training to improve your vision and your coordination, to improve your skill, so you can become a better player. I'll place a link to it down in the description, so you can learn more about it and register there, or you can go to neurotennis.net/challenge. Okay, hopefully everything that I've explained in this video makes sense. Her big issue, spacing and timing, both from a performance perspective and from the injury side of things. There are those resources for elbow and shoulder work down in the description as well. So, you know, if you've got problems in those areas, I highly recommend checking them out. Then it's the single-minded on-court focus within your practice and potentially addressing underlying issues. Any questions about what I've covered here, leave them down below. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time.